now in the 16th of April, and any fertiliser that we probably should have had it on. Fertiliser, last time I was out was probably end of March, start of April, and there's no point in me telling everybody now what the weather was like, because we all know what we're battling against. At the time, we hemmed and hawed about do we put a good rate of fertiliser on, or do we split it in case it gets washed away. And then I think going from last year and going from this year, it seems to be no matter what you do, you always seem to do the wrong decision, but hindsight's a wonderful thing. So the last time I was out with fertiliser, I'm sliding down the hill. The last time I was out with fertiliser, we put a half rate on because we were scared of getting washed away with the rain. And I don't even, I'm going to have to back up here. I don't even think that putting the full rate on would have been any better too. For I think this month alone we've had over 150 mil of rain. I'll just need to double check on the weather station, but it's just one of those things. And then the fertiliser, the nitrogen available units for the crop ran out 3 weeks ago now, and the crop's just dying, absolutely dying. And yesterday it gave good weather. The forecast gave good weather Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Yesterday we just got 2 or 3 big, probably 4 or 5, just absolute cloudbursts. Like it rained for 5 minutes and the water was bouncing, then the sun came out, and then it rained for 5 minutes and the water was bouncing. And we wanted to start fertiliser yesterday. It's coming to the point now. We need to get it on, and regardless of what it was going to be like, it just has to go on. But yesterday we wanted to start, and then we couldn't get near it. And then today we wanted to start, and then we weren't sure. Like, do we do it? Do you not do it? Is the weather going to be better? It's one of those things. I don't think, no matter what you do, we're going to do the right thing. So at the minute, if the fire brigade ever started a Formula 1 team, I think that would be us. Because at the minute we're just firefighting, and it's literally everybody, all the farms is the same. We're all under pressure, and if we get a window at all, like last week, I was a fertiliser on grassland with the tractor with 900s on the rear and 710s on the front. But then coming into our cereal ground here, I think the crops is nearly by the stage for rotations. I think it would do a lot more damage. And then it's like you go through skinny tires, medium tires, fat tires, baldy tires. So Formula 1 style, it was just literally changing the conditions that we've had. So from the last video, a lot of people wanted to know sort of what tractors we were running, and they wanted to see the slurry tankers too. And I know I said I would try and do like a video. I'm just in our worst field here at the minute. Some of the heaviest land, just a bit sticky in places. But we're just the ground's not carrying too bad. Like the tram lines up and down the middle of the field, I'm travelling on them once. They're actually okay. They're just sort of, I think ground's just got wet, and then it can't get any wetter. And there's no sign of drying in the forecast. But the tram lines at the two ends of the fields, it's just getting trampled because I'm travelling along them, and then the spinner can hold 3 tonne, but I'm running about with 500 kilos and a tonne at the time, so I'm doing maybe 3 or 4 laps to the gate more than what I normally would have to do. But the tram lines at the end, we're just going to have to sacrifice them. And if we can roll them, if we can flat roll them in a month's time, or just cut over top of them with combine, however, we're going to have to do something. No, but then in true Formula 1 fire brigade fashion, it's literally just right, there's the window, just go. Just, change tyres, swap tyres, and then I would normally sow with if I was doing grassland, I'll be sowing with a New Holland, the 270 with a auto steer. But then it's a long wheelbase tractor, and if I can find something that's like a tonne lighter, I'll nearly use it. So I'm currently in a 6145R John Deere with 650s on, and this is what we would call our bog standard haulage tractor, 650 tyres on it. And like normally now I would be in the 4-cylinder class tractor, which is again it's another tonne, another 2 tonne lighter than what I'm in at the minute. But I just don't think I would have the weight to get the power down. It's just be skidding about. So it's sort of a happy medium, and we're just sort of closing our eyes and hoping for the best, because our fertiliser requirement, it ran out 2-3 weeks ago, and then we waited for a week, and then we waited for another week, and then you get a window and you think it's going to dry up, and then the forecast changes and the rain comes. I think you just end up waiting and waiting and waiting, and it's at the stage now where we're just going to have to get the fertiliser on. But at the same time, I have to be sensible for the tram lines that I'm skipping and coming down the hill or going up the hill, or like where I am at now, this ground here would be heavier ground. I'm leaving it later in the day to try and let it soak. An extra hour can make some difference. Like where I was this morning, it was a lot drier than where I am now. Well, the last video, which was my first video, I know I said that I'll try and do like a video a month, but you see, I got the slurry one out in February time talking about the new dribble bar. You see, just March, it just rained and rained and rained, and everybody's fighting, or we're all fighting our own struggles for all different reasons. Like since the last video, I've had the sheep in, I've had them lamb, I kept them in the shed longer than I normally keep them in, and they were standing there. You just kept throwing bales of straw and bales of straw and bales of straw at them. But at the same time, you have to be very careful because straw is very, very scarce. I don't think there's any left in the country at all. And I only had so much, and then I got to the point where I had no straw left, and I held the sheep and I held them, and in the end I had to chuck them out. I had to go out. They were just going to trump through gutters in the house. The fertiliser spreader that I'm on now, we got it 2-3 years ago, and fantastic so far. It's our first implement with like section control and rate. We had rate control in my cells before, but you see, just with it turning itself on and off, and then you coming into points, like it's beeping there now because I'm slightly closer on the tram line to one side. It's a tick a meter off. Like we're seeing some difference with that. Well, probably not. I wouldn't say for our application. I wouldn't say we're saving fertiliser because we filled the trailer this morning. We put 15 ton on the trailer this morning, and with the old way cell spinner years ago, you would have sort of spread a bit, and then you knew what acres in the field. You knew there was 20 acres in the field, so you would spread that field, and then you would have worked out, I'm 300 kilos short or I'm 300 kilos over, so you'd have altered your application rate very, very, very slightly. But this spinner here, I still ended up spreading the 15 ton, but I maybe had like 110% spread pattern here, and I had 90% here. Whereas this spinner here, you just set it, what you're putting on, and it sorts itself out. It's brilliant. The only thing you have to watch, what we have found, well, it's just getting to know it, because it is section control and it's closing a meter off at a time. If I'm in a field and there's a lot of points, and just the way some of the fields ends up, there could be a lot of points on one side all the time. You have to be very careful. Should not drop the two sides even in the insider. So you could end up where like the clock could say there's 100, 200 kilos left, but you could actually find there's maybe only 20 on one side. So you have to keep listening and just making sure. But there's fields we go, once you get to know it, there's fields we go to now, and we know to keep more fertiliser on one side of the spreader or whatever. But the ground that I'm in now, the winter barley, it's just sick looking. It's just absolutely, it was pale a week ago, but I don't know what has happened. But in this last week, I don't know, the bluebells are out at home and things have just started to grow. I think the water had the moisture locked up and the crops just couldn't do anything. The spreader's just beeping to tell me there's 200 kilos there. No, but I don't know, just things just seem to change rapidly, and then we all know what's going to happen now. It's happened this last 4 or 5 years. We just seem to go from a monsoon to a drought, and that's another worry too. Like I've seen years I've put fertiliser on, and I've came back in with a sprayer 2-3 weeks time, and you could nearly see the pickles still on top of the ground. That's a wet bit. That's probably the wettest part of the field in front of me. There must be a burst rain, and the water just seems to run down into the hedge. But I don't know, if we can get back in a month's time and maybe get that a roll or something, or just we're going to have to cut around it. But I think this bit of the field, it's always wet. It's wet on a dry year, and it's just even wetter on a wet year. I'm not going to get up here. We're going to have to go we're going to have to go back around, and I'm not going to get through it, but this is where all the damage is happening. It's happening at the end, where I'm travelling 2 or 3 times, and then normally I can hold 3 ton. Because I'm putting like a half, because I'm only filling a spinner half, you travel back and forward to the gate far more. And then the gate and the tram line at the gate's taking a lot more to the damage, but it's just, we're going to have to sacrifice that maybe a bit of the field for the benefit of the rest. But like I was saying, like that wet bit there, you know, that is what we're facing, that's what we're up against. Like, you know, I can just show videos of sunshine and nice bits, but there's no point me telling fibs and telling lies in that bit. It's just wet, that's what we're working with. Yes, there'll probably be people turn around and say, look, you know, you should have waited for another week, it would have dried up, you wouldn't have made as big a mess, but hindsight, and them same people are probably the same people that has been telling us since last July, last August, it's going to be drier next week, and then that week comes, it's going to be drier next week. You know, I've been hearing it's going to be drier next week for a year and a half now, and last year we got into September, like the second, third week in September, and then it was just a salvage job. It was just, can we get crops off the field at all? It doesn't matter what moisture it was. Cutting barley, 22, 25, 19%. If we could just get it off, we were happy. You know, we'll have to be realistic, and you have to look at the historical data. Like this last 5 springtimes, it's went from a monsoon to a drought. Not a lot we can do about it. We just have to work with the weather. And then my last video, I did say I was going to try and do like a video a month, but I don't know. It just March just rained, and absolutely, like, you just have no enthusiasm. It gets to you. It does get to you. And at the same time as well, I didn't want to just do a video for the sake of it. Like, we had a whole pile of machines sitting in the yard, finance to be paid on them, but not even the key was turned on. I think the most used machine was probably the yard brush and the road brush. It was just an absolute disaster, and like, there was probably no point to me standing on a camera telling everybody that it was raining and we're all fed up, because everybody knows that anyway. We're all in the same boat. But look, it depends whether I get this video out next week. You know, if I don't get this video out for a week, it's now what did I say, it was 16th of April. If I don't get this out for a week and it's dry next week, we're all going to forget about it. Like, the weather just changes, and everybody's attitude just changes. But at the minute we feel like firefighters. So I'm going to try and nip it along the road. Do you want to just try and bring another 2 bags down the bottom of the lane? This is one of the biggest troubles too. Normally, the smaller fields, believe it or not, I always complain about small fields here. England's far better with bigger fields, but I can go into a small field with 300 kilos, 500 kilos, and I can spread it and I can come out. The bigger fields is nearly actually worse now because it's wetter, because I've further to go, and you've further to travel, you have more times to come back and forward to the gate, and you don't want to bring gutters out onto the road. And a small field, if I get to the far side of it and it starts to get sticky, I don't have far, like there's fields I've pulled out of, I don't have far to come back to the gate and say, that's it. But if I get across a 30-acre field and I have a ton and a half on to try and get me around the field and back into the gate, I have a long way to come back to the gate. So sometimes you be thankful for what you have, you know. I can put 1 bag, 2 bags into the spinner and finish the field and pull out of it. But look, the fertiliser, it needed to go on. It had to go on. I think the crops are absolutely diabolical. But at the same time, like, I think given the year, we're very, very thankful for a bad autumn crop. Like anything, we have 30 to 40% of our winter wheat, winter barley area in that wanted to get in. A lot of first wheats couldn't get in at all. I'll take a bad crop of that, you know, any day of the week, because spring stuff now, we're in mid-April. If it wasn't in March, February, it's never gonna. It might grow, but it's just gonna grow straw. And any year we put spring barley in. Spring barley, it's hard to make it pay at the best of times. Like, I'm a good man. I love a good spreadsheet. And anytime I do it, the spreadsheet, spring barley, it's just a non-payer. It just does not pay. I think the end of March ideally would have been our cut-off for putting spring barley in. But we're now mid-April and we still have nothing in, no spring wheat, no spring barley in. Like here's some of our worst, probably some of our worst barley here. Now, this section of field, I can never get down to the right. Every time I get, even on a dry year, if I try to go down there, I just slide into the fence every single year. So from experience, I'm just cutting across the top of the hill, I turn the border limiter off on the spreader, and the sprayer, just whatever I can get with the sprayer, and if I can't get some of it, whatever it is, it's just a wet part of the world. But here, we're glad to have what we have in front of me there, we're glad to have that. Where I wouldn't like to be sitting with all my eggs in one basket. It's a funny thing too, I'm sure everybody was the same as us. We all had winter barley, winter wheat seed lying. We got some of ours in, some men didn't get any in. And then the next thing we all went and ordered spring wheat seed, and we hoped for a dry January, a dry February, just trying to get something in the ground. It never come. So winter seeds lying, the spring wheat seeds lying, spring barley seed, it's going to be starting lying now too. And then we have a lot of men asking about growing maize, but it takes the right ground for maize. And like barley wheat, you can sell that off the combine, not a bother. You can dry it yourself, you can store it. But on like maize, you need to have a customer. You know, there's no point growing a crop if you haven't got a market for it. So you need to have a customer for the maize, and you need to be sure that the ground's suitable, that we're going to get it out. You know, we're going to get it out October time, whenever. It's a real tricky year. Real tricky year so far. And I don't know. I still don't think we're at our worst. And you know, there's a lot of people, like 2023 was my worst year ever. That I can remember in however long I've been working for, 15, 20 years. And I'm sure a lot of people talk about 85 as well, but last year was just awful. Why are you beeping for? Stop, RAM. Try start.
A few hours later.
So here we are. That was an unexpected delay. Turns out the beeping noise, I was just coming down around the corner of that field, and I brought up an error code for an actuator, one of the electrical rams, and obviously I tried all the simple things first. Check the plugs, check the screen, try to see if there's anything out of place, try the calibration. The ram was stuck open. So after I had tried it for a while, I couldn't get anywhere. I rang the dealer, and again, like, you know, a machine's only as good as the backup what you receive from the dealer. And Genus Distribution, that's the company that sells the Viking spreaders. And whenever we were buying a fertiliser spreader, all the fertiliser spreaders have their own way of doing things, and there wasn't really one that ticked the box. And sometimes it's nearly the dealer that sells it or doesn't sell it for you. And we spoke to a few people that had the spreaders, and they said the backup was pretty good. And whenever we were buying the machine, we were speaking to the dealer, Stephen, and he was saying that he keeps a lot of spare parts on the shelf, and I found he was pretty knowledgeable, especially with Exobus stuff. He knew what he was talking about, and like, I rang him on the phone, he talked me through a couple of things, and we couldn't get it going over the phone, and then he said it's either one or two things. Either there was a lump stuck in the discharge, or else it was a faulty actuator. But like, to be fair, tell him I can't complain, because in the time that I was getting home to empty the spreader out onto the floor to see if there's something stuck in it, he had a man in a van with an actuator coming down the road, and like that, reliability for me. Like I was broke down now. To be fair, I think the fella was coming into our area, so we were quite lucky. Like I was broken down for 4 hours, and I'm going again. But you know, there's a lot to be said too. Like with dealers keeping stock on the shelf. Like a lot of dealers pride themselves in getting parts overnight. But like it's a long time. If you break down at 10 o'clock at lunchtime on a Thursday and you don't get your parts in to say Friday lunchtime the next day, it's a long time to be waiting. It feels longer than what it actually is. But like I'm going again within 4 hours. Like I can't complain, and I'm getting this field of winter barley finished. And it's giving rain. Like it is forecasting rain coming tonight. And you know, that for me, that's what it's all about. It's the backup from the dealer. Like I can't complain about that at all. Like having parts on the shelf or getting parts overnight, that's the difference to me getting this field finished before the rain and not getting it before the rain. That's the joys of it's the joys of working with machinery. Sometimes the machines is only as good as a dealer. Like we find that with tractors and stuff too. Like you can have the best machine in the world, but if your dealer's 4 or 5 hours away and doesn't keep parts, what's the point? So next job now is I need to get back in here with the sprayer as soon as I can, as soon as it's going to carry me again, and try and get a lot of the weeds choked. But between me going out with a sprayer, I have a lot more fertiliser to go out, and there's a lot of grass land to spread too, so it'll probably be another Formula 1 fire brigade change. I'll have to shift onto the tractor with the wider wheels. Day 2 out with a fertiliser spreader. I'm travelling through the rape at the minute. The rape's one of our better looking crops. This is the first time we grew it on our farm, so we're sort of going in a bit blind. But we had 2, maybe 3 dry weeks in the middle of September. And during that time, like that's when all the harvest just came in together. The harvest just got up in one go. Combines, just the stick was pinned full forward, and it was more of a salvage job. But in that time, I managed to get a bit of rape in, and it's one of our better looking crops because it got up and it got away, and it lasted through the wet in the winter time. What we have found, it seems to be very susceptible. Anyway, there's compaction, it does not like compaction. Where the rape's able to pick out every single drain that we have in the field. You can see the lines in the rape, and the rape's another 6 inches taller. So it doesn't like water at its feet, it doesn't like compaction. But it's the sort of thing, if you had known now what you knew back then, you would have planted the whole place in rape because you would have got it in. But at the same time, you have to be sensible too, because there's no point putting the crop in if you haven't got a market for it. And the market for Northern Ireland for rape, well, from what we can see, you wouldn't want to be sitting with a whole pile of it. The rape's it got a good start. I would say it's probably, I'm over 6 foot tall, 6'2", and I would say that's between my waist and my armpit anyway. So we're pleased with the rape so far, but the only thing I'm probably struggling with at the minute, I need about a 2 foot clearance from the disc to the crop cover with a spinner, and because we're getting into it late, I'm just probably struggling for a bit of height. You just see at the ends there, it doesn't like where it's wet. It's always wet along the top side there. It just doesn't like that wet section. Yesterday, like I was saying there on the video yesterday, you know, should we let it soak for another day? Are we doing the right thing? It's difficult to know, but I'm sort of glad now that I got spread what I spread yesterday, because the weather's closing in and today's getting showery, and it's fine mizzle there at the minute, but you only need a small bit of that and it just starts to soak the place. So we're sort of glad that we spread what we spread yesterday, because I still have plenty to do today too. Probably in the 3rd tractor travelling through the rape to the tram lines. It's one of those cases we're just trying to pick the right weight, the right tires for the conditions. So I think back at the start, whenever I came in to seal the rape, I was just on ordinary tyres, 650s in the back of the T7 270, and because it was pre-emergence, I don't use pre-emergence markers, I was able to seal the rape using RTK. So I was able to pull the tram lines off the drill exactly where they were, and I was able to seal it that way, and it was far handier. And then the next time I think I came through with Fertiliser probably was the 270 again, but with 900s and 710s. And then we got a dry spell. That was back in the autumn time, and then we got a dry spell. I can't remember when it was. It was maybe could have been January. But I remember coming through it, and it was wet on the surface, but it was hard in below. So we made the decision to come through with the 4-cylinder class tractor with what I call pizza slicing tyres. They weren't road crops, they're just what's on her, 480s or something, or 420s. And rather than make a big wide mess, I just wanted to sort of make like a smaller mess. But it didn't actually, like because I've been through the tram lines 2 or 3 times, they were hard, and it hasn't actually made that much of a mess. But then this time around now, I'm on the John Deere, 6-cylinder John Deere short wheelbase, with 650s on the rear. And just because I was doing the arable land yesterday, the crops was too far forward for big wheels, but the ground was too wet for the class tractor and ordinary wheels. So we picked the happy medium weight tractor with happy medium tyres, and just closed our eyes and hoped for the best. Places it was okay, but there was other places like it was wet. I'm probably into some of the best bits of our rape there at the minute. But you can see up the field. You can see every single drain. It's just sort of running about 45 degrees to the crop. And obviously running down into the river to get away. But it's just surprising, it's surprising how much the rape just loves dry ground. The bit that I'm crossing here now, there must have been a hedge or an old laneway straight across that field. You can soon pick stuff out like that. There's the rain on, it's never far away. Like I was asked to be part of a contractor's focus panel type thing for Farmers Weekly, and the fella Ollie came out last week, and one of the questions was like, what are you best looking forward to for 2024? But at the time, we just come through one of the worst years, probably the worst year, and we were getting into 2024 had started January, February, March, mid-April, and nothing was done, and what was there to look forward to then? You know what I mean? We just knew in front of us, if the weather stays the way it's going to be, the year's just going to be an absolute salvage match. There's a lot of livestock farmers are starting to watch their silos empty and starting to panic about straw. You know, if the weather does not pick up, I don't know what's going to happen, but there was nothing to look forward to. But the weather, if we get, yesterday was, I'll not say it was dry, but it didn't rain, put it that way. But it just changes your outlook completely. And if we get 2-3 months decent weather, everybody's attitude's going to change. Everybody's attitude will change in farming. But at the same time, you know what's going to happen. The weather's going to change, and we've had far too much rain, and we're going to get far too much dry spell. We're never happy, and probably the next couple of videos, I'll be turning around and I'll be asking for rain. But sure, it's always the way.